this lesson, we're going to look at characteristics of quadratics. In coordinate algebra, you looked at characteristics of linears and exponentials, so some of the vocabulary will be familiar to you. Write this down. For domain, those are the x values of the graph. So how far to the left into the graph does the graph go? Now this is a computer-generated graph. It does not have arrows in the picture, but it really and truly is going on forever, left and right. And we could say that that means that it has from negative infinity to positive infinity, or we could even say that it has all real numbers. And there's a symbol for that, and I can show you in class, the double bar R. Range, those are the y values. We always list this, write this down, in order from least to greatest, smallest to biggest. So I look at the graph and see what's the lowest y value. And that's -4. And on this picture it goes on into positive infinity. So I use a closed bracket on the -4 because it's included, and an open bracket for infinity because we can never put our finger on that number. Next, we're looking for the axis of symmetry, and that's where does it fold right in half. It's always going to be a vertical line of x equals, and then for this graph it's x equals 1. The vertex, that's the dip, the change in those values. Where is that one? And it's at 1, -4. The extreme value for the graph depends on if you've got this smiley face like we're looking at, or if we had a frown face. The extreme value will always be the vertex. You just need to tell me, is it a minimum value or a maximum value? And for my class, I always talk about stick man running the graph. On this one, he would hit a valley, so that would be a low point. We call that a minimum value. The zeros, we talked about that last unit. Those are the same thing as your x-intercepts. In this graph, the y-intercept is where does it cross the y-axis, and I'm looking for an ordered pair on this one. For interval of increase and interval of decrease, I really try to get my students to always write down 3 things on the graph. You should always find your axis of symmetry and find the x value. And then you always need to label your extremes on the x-axis. Interval of increase and decrease are always x values. So what's the extreme to the left of the x-axis? And then what's the extreme to the right of the x-axis? These 3 numbers are always going to be part of your answer for interval of increase and decrease. Then I always talk to my students about stickman. When he runs the graph, what did he do for that interval? And on this graph, he ran down the hill. So from negative infinity to 1, he was decreasing. On the second part of the graph, we just saw him run up the hill. So what x values did he increase, or where was that? That was from 1 to positive infinity. In behavior is simply what is the graph doing at the ends. You know, if you were to put your arms in the shape of this graph and put little finger points out, where would your hands be pointing? On this one, it's almost like the touchdown. You would have your fingers pointing towards the sky. For in behavior, I want to know where are the y values going. Well, when you point to the sky, those are arrows. They go on forever and ever. So in this particular graph, my in behavior, where are the y values going? They're going on forever and ever in the positive direction, to infinity. And that's on the left side and the right side. Now this might have been more challenging for you in coordinate algebra because the graphs could do a little bit more. But for quadratics, you're always going to have either positive, positive, or if it's a frowny face, negative, negative. Rate of change is simply finding the slope between 2 values. In this inequality, they're telling you to look at the point at -2. That's an x value. So you go to your graph and find where it is at -2. And that's at -2,5. And then this 0 is telling me at 0, find where it touches the graph, which is at -3. Now take these 2 values and calculate the rate of change. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. It doesn't matter which value you choose first, just put the y value up top and its partner underneath. On this problem, I chose to put the 5 on top and the -2 as its partner underneath. But be careful, the formula has a negative sign and the -3 has a negative sign, so that's going to turn into a plus sign. Now I get that it was a -4 rate of change, which I kind of should have expected because it was on the decreasing side of the graph. Decreasing sides of the graph will have a negative rate of change. We're going to talk about more characteristics in class and get plenty of extra practice with it.